In the depths of outer space, the cargo ship Endeavour glided peacefully through the stars. Captain Iris Voss sat in the cockpit, glancing at the monitors to check altitude readings and navigation routes. Her eyes drifted into the dark void of space, reflecting on past mistakes. In this star-filled emptiness, she found both peace and a deep sense of loneliness. Iris had embarked on a career of interplanetary travel long ago. She was a captain who rescued lost souls in the void and delivered dangerous cargo across the galaxy. But today, she had received reports of an impending intergalactic storm, forcing them to alter their course. In the ship's rear, the crew was engaged in technical discussions, working harmoniously. Jake, the first mate, examined the control panel with focused eyes. "Captain, the storm's intensity is increasing. We need to reassess our landing tactics," he said, his voice filled with concern but determination. Iris understood the danger to their safety but didn't want to show her worries. "The situation is under control, Jake. We can handle the storm," she replied, though doubt and fear grew within her. As news of the storm's effects reached them, Iris had to make a decision. "Let's reduce speed and steer towards the edge of the storm. We cannot let it draw us in." Jake adjusted the ship's controls. "Okay, but it's risky. If the turbulence increases, we could lose the ship." Iris knew exactly how dangerous the storm could be, but the alternative options were equally terrifying. "We have to trust ourselves. We need to find a way out of this." Moments later, the ship's engines began to tremble ominously. The crew's attention was fully on the cockpit. Alarms blared, and the control screens lit up with warnings. "Be careful," said Iris, focused on stabilizing the controls. "Switch to landing mode. This storm could be hazardous for us." But her words were swallowed by the chaos. The storm violently shook the ship. Outside, the stars began to vanish one by one, the storm was swallowing them. Captain Mara struggled to maintain control of the ship, while simultaneously shouting commands to her crew. "Activate descent mode with 90% authority, we need to escape the storm." Suddenly, the ship was caught in a massive wave, violently tossing them. The sound of impacts followed in quick succession as the crew struggled to regain control, and Iris felt the last remnants of stability slip away. Eventually, the Endeavour, battered by the storm, was forced to make an emergency landing on a distant planet. As Captain Mara lifted her head in a daze, she caught sight of a terrifying scene outside. The surroundings were engulfed in massive energy storms, creating a tumultuous world. Panic erupted inside the ship. The crew needed to fight to survive. "Get ready to disembark. We need to leave immediately," she shouted, but the storm raged even outside. When they stepped outside, a fierce wind greeted them. Their eyes struggled to adjust to the turbulent energy storms swirling in the sky. They felt something was wrong, but couldn't grasp what it was. Anxiety grew among them. "What are we going to do here?" Jake asked, his voice trembling. "This place feels like a void, and it's dangerous." "We need to survive," Iris said firmly. "We must find the source of the energy. There are hidden treasures here, but also lurking dangers." They quickly began to explore their surroundings. Observations were shared among the crew. Strange structures and mysterious stones were everywhere. But the most striking aspect was the massive energy storms that had surrounded the planet for centuries. All of this created uncertainty in their minds. But one thing was clear, they would have to fight to survive. Amidst the panic and uncertainty inside the ship, the crew decided to make a plan to face the effects of the storm and uncover the planet's secrets. As the dust settled from their forced landing, Captain Iris Voss surveyed the chaotic scene around her. The ship was battered, the hull creaking ominously as the wind howled like a wounded beast. Her crew was disoriented, shaken by the tumultuous events that had transpired, but the urgency of their situation snapped them into action. "Jake, assess the damage," Iris commanded, her voice steady but urgent. "We need to know if we can get the engines back online." Jake nodded, his brow furrowed in concentration. He made his way toward the engine room, navigating through the narrow corridors of the ship. Iris watched him go, then turned her attention to the rest of the crew. Anxiety hung in the air like a thick fog, and she could see it in their eyes. They were not just facing the dangers of the planet, they were grappling with their own fears and doubts. "Listen up," Iris called out, gathering the remaining crew members around her. "We've faced worse odds before. Right now, we need to focus on survival. We need to find shelter and resources, and we need to do it quickly." Just then, one of the crew, a technician named Mia, spoke up. "Captain, the ship's sensors picked up some life signs nearby. If we're going to find shelter, we might want to investigate those readings." "Good thinking, Mia," Iris replied. "We need to split into teams. Jake and I will check the ship's integrity. The rest of you, prepare to scout for supplies and secure a perimeter around the ship." As the crew nodded and began to disperse, Iris felt a mix of responsibility and fear weighing on her shoulders. She had always been the leader, the one to guide them through turbulent waters, but this planet was unlike anything they had encountered. The energy storms that had nearly claimed their lives seemed to pulse with a sentience of their own. Once Jake returned from the engine room, he looked grave. "The engines are shot, Captain. We're stuck here until we can get the parts to repair them." Iris sighed, feeling the weight of their predicament. "How long will that take?" "Hard to say. We might be able to salvage some components from the nearby wreckage or find something in the structures that Mia detected," Jake replied, his tone pragmatic. "Then let's move quickly. We need to find shelter and gather resources. This storm isn't going to wait for us to catch our breath," Iris said, determination burning in her chest. As they prepared to leave the ship, Iris took one last look at the vessel that had been their home for so long. It was a refuge, a vessel that had carried them across the stars, but now it felt vulnerable and exposed. The wild energy of the planet crackled in the air around them, and she could feel it tugging at the edges of her consciousness, whispering promises of power and danger. Stepping outside, the crew faced the fury of the elements. The storm raged above, swirling dark clouds and flashes of energy illuminating the chaotic landscape. Iris gestured for her team to stay close, leading them toward the direction of the life signs. The ground beneath their feet was uneven, littered with debris and strange vegetation. The atmosphere felt charged, and every gust of wind carried the weight of the planet's energy. As they walked, Iris noticed the shadows shifting around them, the storm's tendrils reaching out as if they were alive. "Stay alert," Iris cautioned, glancing at the crew members. "This planet is unpredictable, and we can't afford any surprises." They trudged on, the tension palpable. The environment was harsh, but the crew's resolve was unyielding. They approached a cluster of structures that loomed ahead, remnants of what seemed to be an ancient settlement, partially obscured by the swirling winds. As they reached the first building, the atmosphere shifted. A low rumble echoed through the air, almost as if the ground were warning them of their intrusion. Iris exchanged a wary glance with Jake, who nodded in agreement. "I'll take point," Jake said, stepping forward as he pushed open the weathered door. The door creaked ominously, revealing a dark interior. Inside, the structure was a labyrinth of crumbling walls and debris. Strange symbols covered the surfaces, reminiscent of the markings they had seen in the cave of the energy storms. The air was thick with dust, and the faint smell of decay lingered, a reminder of the civilization that once thrived here. "Let's split up and search for anything useful," Iris suggested. "But stay within shouting distance." The crew dispersed cautiously, searching the dimly lit corners of the building. Iris felt the weight of the silence pressing down on her, the shadows whispering secrets that eluded her grasp. As she moved deeper into the structure, she stumbled upon a room filled with ancient machinery, rusted but intact. "What do you think this was used for?" she muttered to herself, examining the intricate designs and controls. Just then, a loud crash echoed from the main room, followed by Jake's voice shouting, "Iris! Get in here! Iris rushed toward the sound, her heart racing. She burst into the main area to find Jake standing over a large panel that had fallen to the floor, exposing a hidden compartment beneath. "What did you find?" she asked, breathless. Jake pointed at the compartment, revealing what appeared to be a cache of supplies, tools, metal parts, and what looked like an energy cell. "This could be exactly what we need to repair the ship." Iris's heart surged with hope. "Great job. Let's gather what we can and move quickly before the storm intensifies." As they collected the supplies, the air began to crackle with electricity, and a low growl reverberated outside the building. "What was that?" one of the crew members whispered, fear creeping into their voice. "Keep calm," Iris commanded, her instincts on high alert. "It could be the creatures that inhabit this planet. We need to move." As they made their way back to the entrance, the shadows shifted again, and the growls grew louder. Iris's heart raced. The storm had brought more than just chaos, it had awakened something primal on this planet. "Everyone, back to the ship. Now," she shouted, urgency lacing her voice. They sprinted through the ancient structure, the echoes of their footsteps drowned out by the roar of the wind. As they reached the door, a creature lunged from the shadows, a beast of jagged teeth and glistening eyes, its growl resonating through the air. "Run!" Jake shouted, and they barreled out of the building, the creature hot on their heels. The crew sprinted toward the ship, adrenaline fueling their escape. Iris glanced back, her heart pounding as the creature leapt toward them, jaws snapping. "Get inside," she yelled, her voice hoarse with fear and determination. They scrambled back onto the Endeavour, slamming the door shut just as the creature crashed against it, its feral howl echoing in the air. The ship shuddered, but they were safe, at least for now. As they caught their breath, Iris turned to her crew, her expression resolute. "This planet is more dangerous than we imagined. We need to prepare for anything." "Are we going to try to repair the ship?" Jake asked, wiping the sweat from his brow. "Yes, but we need to gather more supplies first," Iris replied. "And we need to find out what else is out there. This storm has awakened something, and we can't afford to be caught off guard again." With a heavy heart, Iris steeled herself for the challenges ahead. The planet was a living entity, and they were merely intruders. But she wouldn't back down. They would face whatever came their way, together. The crew huddled inside the Endeavour, the weight of their harrowing escape settling heavily on their shoulders. The energy storm outside continued to rage, the winds howling like a chorus of lost souls. The ship's metal walls vibrated with the storm's fury, a reminder that they were far from safe. Iris paced the small cabin, her mind racing. "We need to regroup and plan our next steps. This planet is unpredictable, and we can't afford to make any more mistakes." Jake stood near the control panel, running his fingers over the battered displays. "The supplies we found in the ruins should help with the repairs, but we need a secure location to work. If that creature returns, we'll be sitting ducks." "Let's assess the damage," Iris said, her voice steady. "Jake, Mia, you two take stock of what we have and see how we can use the energy cell to get the engines running again. The rest of you, stay alert and keep an eye on the perimeter." As they set to work, the atmosphere was thick with tension. Each crew member was acutely aware of the dangers outside, their minds racing with thoughts of survival. Mia, a skilled engineer, joined Jake at the control panel. "I think we can get the secondary systems online," she suggested, her brow furrowed in concentration. "If we can power the shields, we'll at least have some protection if we're attacked again." Jake nodded, diving into the repairs. "Good idea. I'll need the spare wiring and any tools you can find." Iris moved to the viewport, staring into the chaotic storm beyond. The energy fluctuations pulsed like a living thing, a reminder of the power they were up against. "We need to understand this storm," she murmured, half to herself. "It's not just weather, it's a force that could be harnessed." The idea sparked a flame of curiosity within her. If they could learn to control the energy, perhaps they could use it to their advantage. But how? She shook her head, dispelling the thoughts. First, they needed to survive. The crew worked tirelessly, tension running high as they navigated the delicate process of repairs. Hours passed, but time felt meaningless in the storm's grip. Just as they began to make progress, a loud crash echoed from outside, followed by the unmistakable sound of claws scraping against the hull. "Jake! Get the shields up!" Iris shouted, adrenaline surging through her veins. He scrambled to comply, flicking switches and tapping commands into the console. "I'm trying. The energy cell isn't charged enough yet." Panic began to spread as the creature's growls grew louder. Iris felt a surge of determination. "We can't let it break through. Everyone, brace yourselves." With a loud thud, the creature slammed into the ship, the impact reverberating through the metal structure. The crew stumbled, grasping onto anything to keep their balance. "I can't hold it much longer," Jake yelled, his voice strained as he struggled with the controls. "Redirect power from the auxiliary systems," Iris ordered, her voice steady despite the chaos. "We need to boost the shields." Mia nodded, jumping into action. "I'll reroute the energy. We just need a few more seconds." As they fought to stabilize the ship, the creature continued its assault, its growls growing more furious. Iris could feel her heart pounding in her chest, the weight of their situation pressing down on her. "Almost there," Mia shouted, her fingers flying over the controls. The ship shook again, and the lights flickered. Finally, the shields activated with a low hum, enveloping the ship in a protective glow. The creature collided with the barrier, and the impact sent shockwaves through the vessel. "It worked!" Jake exclaimed, relief flooding his voice. But Iris wasn't convinced. "We can't stay here for long. We need to move. If this creature is part of the storm, it won't give up easily." They gathered their supplies and made a quick assessment of the ship's condition. The shields would hold for now, but they couldn't rely on them forever. Iris knew they needed to find a more secure location where they could regroup and devise a plan. "Let's head toward that mountain range we saw earlier," Iris said, her voice resolute. "We might find shelter and a better vantage point." As they made their way outside, the storm's energy crackled around them, a living entity that seemed to pulse with each step they took. The winds whipped through the air, and the crew shielded their eyes from the debris that swirled around them. The mountains loomed ahead, jagged and imposing, but they felt a flicker of hope. There was a chance they could find safety there, a chance to regroup and learn how to harness the storm's power. But as they navigated the treacherous terrain, the growls of the creature echoed in the distance, reminding them that they were not alone in this perilous world. They had to move quickly, and the stakes had never been higher. "Iris, look!" Jake pointed ahead as they approached the base of the mountains. A glimmer of light caught his eye, cutting through the storm. "What is it?" Iris asked, squinting against the swirling dust. "It looks like an entrance," Jake replied, excitement evident in his voice. "It could lead us to shelter." Without hesitation, they rushed toward the entrance, a darkened cave that beckoned them. As they stepped inside, the air shifted, cooler and more stable than outside. The howls of the storm faded, replaced by an eerie silence. Iris turned to her crew, her resolve strengthening. "We need to fortify our position here. We'll figure out how to understand this storm and find a way off this planet. But first, we need to survive." As they ventured deeper into the cave, the shadows enveloped them, the flickering lights behind them fading into the darkness. The storm may have brought them here, but within these walls, they would find the strength to confront the challenges that lay ahead. As the crew stepped deeper into the cave, the dim light revealed the jagged walls, glistening with moisture. The air was thick, filled with the earthy scent of wet stone and the electric charge of the storm outside. The deeper they ventured, the more they felt the weight of the planet pressing down on them, a reminder that they were intruders in a world that was both beautiful and dangerous. Iris led the way, her heart racing with a mix of fear and determination. She had always been the one to guide her crew through uncertainty, but now, in this alien landscape, she felt the burden of leadership heavier than ever. "We should find a good spot to set up camp," she said, glancing back at Jake and the others. "Somewhere defensible, away from the entrance. We need to prepare for whatever is out there." As they moved further in, the cave opened into a larger chamber, illuminated by a faint bioluminescent glow emanating from strange fungi clinging to the walls. The sight was both mesmerizing and unsettling, the soft light casting eerie shadows that danced across the rocky surface. "This place feels alive," Jake said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Like it's breathing." "It's not just a cave, it's part of the planet's ecosystem," Iris replied, her mind racing. "We need to be cautious. If this planet is as unpredictable as the storm outside, we could be walking into a trap." The crew spread out, examining the chamber. Mia knelt beside the glowing fungi, studying them with curiosity. These could be a source of food or energy. We should analyze them before we make any decisions. While Mia focused on the fungi, Iris surveyed the chamber. Her instincts told her they weren't alone. The storm outside continued to rumble, and she could sense an undercurrent of tension that had yet to dissipate. "Everyone, stay alert," Iris warned, moving closer to Jake. "We need to maintain communication and watch each other's backs." As if in response to her words, the ground trembled slightly. The crew exchanged worried glances, and Iris's heart sank. "We need to get out of here," she shouted. "Find a stable spot further in." They hurried deeper into the cave, the glow of the fungi guiding their way. The air grew cooler, and the sounds of the storm outside faded to a distant roar. It felt surreal, like they had stepped into another world. Finally, they reached a small alcove that felt more secure. It was a natural recess in the rock, providing a buffer against whatever dangers lurked beyond. The crew quickly set about establishing a base, laying out their supplies and preparing for a long night. "I'll take first watch," Jake offered, positioning himself near the entrance. "We need to be ready in case something finds us." Iris nodded, grateful for his vigilance. "I'll join you in a bit. I want to check on the others first." As night fell, the cave transformed. Shadows flickered against the walls, and the sounds of the planet echoed around them. The crew sat in a circle, sharing stories to lift their spirits. They needed to maintain their morale if they were going to survive. Mia, who had been quiet for a while, suddenly spoke up. "What do you think this planet was like before the storms? Was there life? Civilization?" Iris considered the question, her mind drifting to the ancient ruins they had seen. "It's possible. This planet might have had a thriving society. The storms could be a result of their experiments or technology gone wrong." Jake chimed in, his voice low. "Or it could be a warning. This planet has a way of punishing intruders. We're not the first, and we won't be the last." As the night wore on, the shadows grew longer, and the atmosphere thickened with tension. Iris felt it in her bones, the knowledge that they were not just fighting the storms outside but also the ghosts of the past that haunted this world. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the entrance, jolting everyone to attention. The sound reverberated through the cave, and the ground trembled again, more violently this time. "Jake!" Iris shouted, rushing toward the entrance. Jake's eyes were wide with fear. "I saw something moving outside. It was too fast." Just then, a shadow darted past the entrance, and a low growl filled the air. The crew froze, hearts pounding as they braced themselves for what was about to come. Iris's instincts kicked in. "Get ready. We need to defend ourselves." The growling intensified, and the shadow materialized into a creature, massive, with sleek fur and glowing eyes. It stood at the entrance, its form illuminated by the faint light of the fungi. The creature was unlike anything they had seen before, a perfect predator adapted to the chaos of this planet. Iris felt her pulse quicken as she faced the beast. "We need to back away slowly. No sudden movements." The crew complied, inching away from the entrance while keeping their eyes fixed on the creature. It stalked closer, its muscles coiling like springs, ready to pounce. "Jake, grab something," Iris commanded, her voice steady. "We need to distract it." Jake scrambled for a tool, his hands shaking. "What do you want me to do? Throw it?" "Yes. Anything to divert its attention." Iris shouted, adrenaline surging through her veins. With a quick motion, Jake hurled a metal wrench into the darkness behind the creature. The noise echoed, and the beast turned, momentarily distracted. "Now!" Iris shouted, her heart racing as they moved further into the alcove. The creature snarled, lunging toward the sound, but Iris and the crew quickly maneuvered deeper into the cave. They could feel the creature's presence behind them, a palpable threat in the darkness. As they stumbled into the depths of the cave, Iris realized that they had to find a way to outsmart the beast. They couldn't let fear consume them. They had to become the hunters, not the hunted. "Look for anything we can use as a weapon," Iris urged, her eyes scanning the dim light for anything that could help. Mia pointed to a jagged rock formation that jutted out from the wall. "We could use those. They're sharp enough to defend ourselves." Jake nodded, determination igniting in his eyes. "Let's do it." The crew quickly gathered rocks and improvised weapons, their fear turning into a fierce resolve. The beast, meanwhile, was still prowling nearby, its growls reverberating through the cave. "On my count, we'll turn and face it," Iris instructed, her voice firm. "We can't let it corner us." As they prepared, the atmosphere shifted, filled with a mix of fear and adrenaline. Iris felt a surge of leadership within her, a burning desire to protect her crew and fight back against the darkness that threatened to consume them. "Ready? 1, 2, 3. They turned as one, brandishing their makeshift weapons against the darkness, ready to face the creature that had invaded their sanctuary. The tension crackled in the air, the promise of a fierce battle hanging between them. The growls of the creature echoed through the cave, reverberating off the walls and heightening the tension in the air. Iris and her crew stood firm, weapons poised, adrenaline coursing through their veins. They had to face the beast, but their hearts raced with uncertainty. Would their makeshift weapons be enough to fend off the predator? The creature snarled, its glowing eyes locked onto Iris. It lunged forward, its powerful form a blur against the shadows. Iris felt the weight of the moment, the culmination of their struggles, fears, and the harsh reality of survival. "Stay together," she shouted, directing her crew to hold their ground. As the creature surged towards them, Jake swung his jagged rock, narrowly missing the beast as it twisted away. The creature snarled again, pivoting to face its attackers, the glint of its sharp teeth shining in the dim light. Mia, her voice trembling but fierce, shouted, "We need to flank it. Distract it. On my mark." Iris barked, her mind racing as she quickly devised a strategy. "Jake, Mia, you create a diversion. I'll try to draw it back toward the entrance." With a nod, Jake and Mia prepared themselves, positioning themselves to catch the creature's attention. Iris gripped her weapon tightly, focusing on the beast's every move, her instincts kicking into high gear. "Now!" Jake shouted, tossing another rock to the left. The creature turned, its attention diverted for just a moment. Iris seized the opportunity, sprinting forward and shouting to draw the creature's focus back to her. "Over here, you ugly brute." The creature whirled around, its eyes narrowing as it focused on Iris. She could see the intelligence in its gaze, the way it calculated her movements. It was a predator, and she was its prey. With a burst of speed, she dashed toward the entrance of the cave, hoping to lure the beast outside. The cave's darkness receded behind her, replaced by the swirling chaos of the storm. The wind howled, and the energy crackled in the air, but Iris was determined to outsmart the creature. Behind her, she heard the sounds of the crew shouting, their voices a mix of fear and bravery. "This way! Over here!" Jake called out, trying to pull the beast away from Iris. As Iris reached the mouth of the cave, she glanced back just in time to see the creature charging behind her, its powerful limbs propelling it forward. It was fast, faster than she had anticipated. Come on, she urged herself, her heart pounding as she prepared for the leap. Just as the creature lunged for her, she dodged to the side, narrowly escaping its razor-sharp teeth. The creature stumbled slightly, giving Iris a moment to regain her footing. "Now," she shouted to her crew. Jake and Mia, still armed with their makeshift weapons, rushed in from the sides. They coordinated their movements, each trying to keep the creature distracted. Jake swung his rock, striking the beast on the flank. It howled in rage, turning its attention back to him. "Keep it busy," Iris yelled. "I'm going for the energy cell. We can harness the storm's power against it." With determination, Iris sprinted toward the ship, the chaos of the storm swirling around her. The wind whipped through her hair, and the rain began to fall, mixing with the energy in the air. She could feel the power pulsing beneath the surface, a reminder of the forces at play. Reaching the Endeavour, she quickly scrambled aboard, her heart racing as she headed for the control panel. The storm outside raged, but in that moment, she felt a connection to the energy around her, a spark of hope igniting within her. Come on, she muttered, fingers flying over the controls. She activated the energy cell, feeling the vibrations surge through the ship. Back outside, the creature continued to battle against Jake and Mia, the growls and snarls echoing in the storm. They were fighting hard, but Iris knew they couldn't hold it off forever. "Iris!" Jake shouted, barely avoiding another strike. "We need you out here." "I'm working on it," Iris yelled back, focusing intently on the energy readings. She could sense the buildup of power, the way the storm was responding to her presence. Just as the creature lunged again, Mia threw a rock with all her strength, hitting the beast square in the face. It paused, momentarily disoriented. "Now, Iris," she yelled, desperation lacing her voice. Iris seized the moment. With a surge of energy from the ship, she directed a concentrated blast of power from the energy cell. The storm responded to her call, lightning arcing through the air and striking the ground near the creature. The energy surged forward, colliding with the beast in a dazzling display of light. The creature howled, caught off guard by the sudden onslaught. It staggered back, disoriented, and for a moment, the air crackled with electricity. "Jake, Mia, now!" Iris shouted, adrenaline pumping through her veins. Taking advantage of the creature's confusion, Jake and Mia charged forward, swinging their improvised weapons. The creature roared, trying to regain its footing, but it was overwhelmed. With one final swing, they struck the beast, and it collapsed to the ground, defeated. Breathless, the crew stared at the fallen creature, the storm still raging around them but the immediate threat now neutralized. "I can't believe we did it," Mia panted, disbelief etched across her face. Iris, still catching her breath, nodded. "We have to keep moving. The storm is still here, and we need to find shelter." As they regrouped, the storm outside raged on, a powerful force that reminded them they were still in a perilous situation. They had survived this encounter, but the planet held more secrets, more dangers, than they could have ever anticipated. "Let's head back into the cave and reassess our next steps," Iris suggested. "We need to find a way to harness the storm's energy to escape this planet." As they made their way back, Iris couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The storm had tested them, but they had fought back. Together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead, united against the chaos of this alien world.